Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream. Let's load up this YouTube recording, or TradingView recording, and be on our way. So today's going to be a little short because I'm still under the weather, and I just want to get through this. So let's point out the daily pivot for trend, which we currently have defined as the 500 period, right? And honestly, I still expect us to swing down and hit that lower low, right? Because this 500 period, 1.25 standard deviation, is currently defining our pivot for trend. If you go back and look at the previous bull run, it was also the pivot for trend, and it had over 11 points of contact, which honestly makes it very appealing that we're following the same pivot now at this time. So with that in mind, we have 1, 2, 3 points of contact. You know what? I would expect a fourth. I just have alerts all set up down here on this pivot. If we actually manage to trend down and test that pivot once more, that'd be awesome. I would really like that, because that's how I'm going to be entering my longs. I have a small long position on Bitcoin just open because we're at the bottom of a flag structure, and why not? Of course, I have my stop losses set below that value, although I am expecting a liquidity wick to the downside. So if we do pop down with the volatility pop and then see upward price action, well, that's fine. I guess I'll just buy back in, right? I'm not on all that much leverage right now. Kind of just coasting this out. We have a really tight compression area period, which implies high potential energy. And if you have high potential energy, well, that typically results in stop hunts. Right? We could actually identify this really well in Bitcoin's previous price action. Let's describe this, shall we? Okay. Let's just hide the indicators for a second, because we don't really need them if we're doing this. So if Bitcoin enters intense compression area periods, right? For instance, here, or here, here, or even here. This one was particularly convincing. Let's talk about this one. All right, whenever you have tight compression area periods following extremely volatile areas like this, right, you're getting candles that span 8% in a day, right? So what happens when you're in a range that's only 5% for over a week? Well, pretty predictably, you get a lot of stop losses for short positions just above the range, and a lot of stop losses for shorts below the range, right? And because this is a compressing range, well, then the stop losses get more and more obvious. So what happens when price finally breaks outside the range? Oh, well, stop losses beget stop losses, and you have strong selling pressure as tens of thousands of electronic orders all activate at the same time with very low liquidity scooping up these very low orders, right? So think about this. If you got a tight compression area range, why would you buy the downward break, huh? Or rather, why would you set buy orders below the range before it's even happened? You wouldn't do it. So there's very thin liquidity down here, and there's very thin liquidity up here. So what happens? Whenever the range breaks, volatility pop to the downside, volatility pop to the upside, right? And this intent is to hunt out traders before it happens, right? So somebody plans on pushing price up to exit their longs, for instance. So first they push price down, right? So that there's less selling pressure up here from the people who are long from this move taking profit, right? So what happens next? You have a large candle to the upside, which clears liquidity of shorters, right? Because all the short people are now stopping out. And then they can resume trend to the downside. Oh, goodness gracious, look at that. Look how drastic that is, my friends. So I'm a little bit concerned now that we're getting this equally tight compression area range. Like so. It's just so tight, such an obvious defined support. And I'm really worried that we're going to see, oh, boom, baby. Just a large liquidity pop to the downside before trend continuation. It does beget concern. So if we look at the 1 hour chart, and we're getting a high volume volatility pop to the upside, followed by a compression area range, Ooh, I don't know, man. That does imply some slight bearishness. It's kind of odd how overwhelming bullish volume can sometimes imply the exact opposite, right? Because if you get kind of sustained selling like this, okay, cool, that's trend. But if you have one significant volatility pop to the upside with no natural pressure following it, well then you can somewhat reliably predict a move in the opposite direction. So what do we got in now? We get a large volume spike, the largest volume spike all month, mind you. And then what happens? There's no buying pressure. What is this? Huh? What is this volume? There's nothing here. It's just compression. So I think we're going to dump hard within the next few days. And really, that's just a hunch, my friends. I don't have any metrics to confirm that. Just be aware. My point is, you probably shouldn't be in all that many positions right now. It's not safe. Right? Because if we're getting the kind of price action that precedes a dump, right in an area where it would be liable to dump, right, where we have a super easily defined support. And look at this, guys. There's a yin for every yang. We have this super obvious trend line with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of contact. What happens? Oop, volatility popped to the downside first, and then the move happens, right? I would actually reliably call this a fractal. So I would not be surprised if we had significant downward move to like 8,500. I know that's aggressive, but it's possible before in quote-unquote miraculous recovery and trend continuation. So I'm going to try two things. I'm going to try buying at 9,600, but not just buying there, but I'm waiting for the mean reversion condition that'll consequently form from that downward move. Right, so if we actually do dump, cool, that'll actually provide us the best buying opportunity all year because it'll be associated with a bullish mean reversion position. If we load up the ACAT indicator, we can reliably look at mean reversion conditions. Okay. Beautiful. All right, if we go in the purple band, we go to the purple mean, right? So like this, like this, like this, like that, like that, like this, like that, like this. And so on, right? So if we start downward trend, we'll generate a mean reversion condition. And then when we activate that bullish mean reversion condition, well, great. That'll actually be your buy signal. So we have so much compression and potential energy here, and we have no implied direction other than this slightly downward direction. It's not worth it, guys. Not right now. The risk is too high. Might as well just sit this out. Because I know if a worst case scenario happens, we're going to be provided with a really good entry. And if that really good entry occurs, awesome. Scoop it up and bet on trend continuation. So, what happens if we go up? What then? Well, then we'll just have an upward trend defining pivot, and then we can take the bounces off that pivot like we tried over here, right? Where we had this pivot form, and then we just bet right on the pivot that trend continuation will happen. And obviously, trend continuation did not truly occur at this location, other than just a small volatility pop. But, you know, if we get upward trend like this here, right, where we actually get sizable upward trend, all you have to do is buy here, 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 and then you sell here when the mean reversion condition ends, and then, well, mean reversion occurs. And then a dump occurs. Wow, look at that. How convenient. Right. So these tools I'm using here, this is ACAT. You can find it at sharkcharts.live. Very much recommend it if its efficacy is not at all apparent from this live stream. In other words, it has been a pleasure. I will talk to you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. Oh, let me check the YouTube comments. Nothing. All right, that's it for today. Love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Be good.